You're listening to ayahuascapodcast.com.
We are scanning people before and after the retreats. At first, I was trying to do before and after ayahuasca. Anybody that has gone to ayahuasca retreats know there's opening circles, closing circles. Again, there could be multiple plant medicines, music, dance, community. A lot of people are detoxing before they come to a retreat. So they're already taking on a lot of good health practices that maybe otherwise they wouldn't be doing. So I feel that downplays the effects of ayahuasca just itself, because when you are scanning these people, their lives have already completely changed as they're getting ready to do an ayahuasca retreat. So I think the studies should go more into how does the ayahuasca retreat really change your life, because it's hard to disconnect the medicine.
In this episode of Ayahuasca Podcast, I interview Dr. Lauren Leiva. Lauren shares a personal account of how her spiritual practices, cultivated since childhood, helped her survive a life-threatening situation. We talk about the role of intuition in healing journey, mind and body connection. She shares her ayahuasca experiences, and we talk about ayahuasca as a part of biohacking. Lauren talks to us about her clinic and so much more. Enjoy this episode. This episode is sponsored by Lauren Ayahuasca Retreat. At Lauren, we combine affordability, accessibility, and authenticity. Lauren, connect, heal, grow. Guys, I'm looking forward to hosting you. Hi guys, welcome to ayahuascapodcast.com. As always, with you, the host Sam Believ. Today, I am interviewing Dr. Lauren Leiva. Laura is a survivor. She's also known as Queen of Biohacking. She's an owner and the founder of ExerScience Biohacking Center. She's a mother of two, and she is on a mission of finding a holistic healing path. Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, Lauren, before we start talking about psychedelics and biohacking, tell us a little bit about your journey. I know you had a pretty difficult life, and so what brought you to getting better yourself and then starting to help others?
So, I think after ayahuasca journeys, we all know it starts within the womb and before. But what got me on my journey to healing and creating my center really was just going through a lifetime of trauma that we all go through, but improper healing methods. And I know that we had a brief conversation, for example, before about marijuana. But when I was 13, I started smoking marijuana because of a lot of depression and different things that happened. And giving the long story short of it, because we can also link YouTube videos and everything, but my parents got divorced before I was born. They were very different. My mom was this hippie, nudist, spiritual, just beautiful person. And my father's a beautiful person too, but he was more like military mindset, very strict. So having two different homes was very different, and it actually created a lot of bias because my mom was into plant medicine, was into dance, into movement. And when I would go to my father's house, it was like, that's wrong. This is, movement is sexual. So there was a huge disconnect within the way I grew up from one household to another. So going through that, when I was 13, I experienced a very traumatic event that ayahuasca later showed me resulted in Crohn's disease. I started going to the bathroom about 100 times a day. I would throw up water sometimes because my body was just shut down. I had blood transfusions to elevate my iron levels. I would have, again, IVs for hydration. My body wouldn't take in anything. And just going through mainstream medical system, my mother was older. She worked a lot. We didn't have the best insurance. So I was being prescribed prednisone, Asacol, Flagyl, all of these medicines, antidepressants, Adderall, oxycodone. And it was just like they were throwing anything at me to make the symptoms go away, but they would result in other things like osteoporosis. I got arrhythmia nodosum, which is like nodules in your bloodstream. And one thing caused another thing, caused another thing. And if anybody has been to my talks, I've been going around the world to share the mind over matter, because from 13 years old and so on, I kind of pushed everything under the rug. I was a straight A student, a scholar. You know, I appeared, I'm looking at my thing, I appeared, you know, normal on the outside. But the inside was just getting sicker and sicker and sicker, more diseased, which happens to a lot of people. I work with veterans who've had, you know, terrible, you know, injuries that you can see on the outside. But a lot of us walk around with injuries on the inside, and nobody gives you the time and space to heal, the support that you need if they can't see the pain you're going through. So that's something that's a little bit off in society. So just going through college, and I went through my early years. I was going to go to USF medical school. I took my MCAT, and then after graduating USF honors, I got a bachelor in biomedical science, biomedical physics. I just loved science. Later, one of my mentors told me, you can't cry while you're doing math. So I think I also threw myself into school a lot because I was escaping other things that were going on in my life. In my life, there was different things that ayahuasca helps me talk about, because it was very hard to talk about abuse or neglect or sexual trauma. You know, for some time, I had a restraining order on my own brother, and it was really hard to talk about, and nobody really knew how I grew up. And I was just, as I got older and wiser, I was almost mind blown that nobody really went into my living situation, my spiritual health. You know, every time since I was little, they would scan my body, take my heart rate, my blood pressure, prescribe something. Nobody asked, was I being abused? Was I being hurt? Was I happy? And now there is some, you know, scanning they do when you go to the doctor. Do you have motivation for life? Are you happy? Are you hurt? So it's good that they're bringing that into mainstream healthcare. But it goes deeper, because usually we're around our loved ones when we're being asked this. We're not in a space, a sacred space to share. So often we don't even know what's going on. After college, I had my first son. He was born 2 months early. And that was really the seed that apparently, you know, came out of me. And I'm like, he's not going to go through the same thing I went through. And I got off all my medicines, all natural, within 1 day. So talking about addiction and everything, I thought I needed everything. And especially when you have a whole medical system or doctors, especially if you're uneducated, and someone says you need this or you'll die, or you're going to be on this medicine the rest of your life. Your cellular structure is listening. And if you believe it, it actually could become true within the body. So it took an unlearning for me over time after I had my son, to know better, to do better, and that I don't want him to even have this in his system through me. I wanted to breastfeed. I wanted to do things. So that's when I realized I can. And it's on the back of my business card, and it's one of my mottos. I can't, and we rip the T off. Because I rarely will tell anybody they can't do something, because for me, that's almost a challenge. Well, can I? And it's not reverse psychology, but we are such amazing spirits in this body. You know, we always think, oh, we're going to go to ayahuasca and have a spiritual experience. No, our spirit is here the whole time waiting to come out. So when we go to these things and we respect the spirit, our body becomes the temple that we subconsciously always know about. We have to respect our temple. We have to feed our temple good things, you know, from the food we eat. The amount of water we drink. If we're doing drugs, we're hurting our temple. It hurts our mind. Then our spirit might not be in this body for a long time. So this is really what brought me to the plant medicines, because after having my son, and realizing just all the things that were wrong with how I was raised, how the medical system treated me, I really put a lot of my efforts to explore further. My mother, she was killed by the hospital in 2019, overdosed on blood thinner. So again, mainstream medical care, I was really like repulsed by. I had so many surgeries as a child. So I wanted a better solution. And after my mom passed away, I opened my clinic. And opening my clinic, I was able to apply and spend as much time with each patient, because that's something that was, again, I found that was off when I was little. They would do the questionnaires, they would see what's wrong, but they really didn't spend that sacred time with you, because maybe something's under the rug that's going to come out. Often people that are going through trauma don't even know why they're in pain. They might see something, but it could be something totally different. And that's kind of what was going on with me from 13 till I was in my 30s, and it resulted in ulcers and inflammation and depression, and even had suicidal thoughts. So that's, again, my life of pain brought me to the purpose. And then through my own practices, I realized just love and having that frequency of love and connection with people really allowed healing. And plant medicine, when you add it in with love and connection, which is why I love ayahuasca retreats, because we're in a circle, a community, and some people don't have a true community. Someone that you hardly know could feel like your family, and when you come home, you could feel alone. And that's what's really beautiful there. So having the love and everybody being open for healing is one thing, but the plant medicines, for example, I could go through rapé, sananga, and ayahuasca, which is what I experienced at my first ayahuasca retreat. And the rapé was very powerful. And even at first, I asked the shaman, can I just snort a line? It looks kind of scary over there because the shaman will blow rapé up your nose. And then I actually have my own practice now. There's the Kiri pipe, the Tepi pipe. And it's really beautiful to bring it in to your own practice eventually when you can learn more about it. But I learned about the feminine, the masculine. It's so much more than just the plant medicine. Every person's hands that touch this plant to make this shamanic snuff to decalcify my pineal gland, every part of it matters. It's just like if people are meat eaters. I don't want to go there, but if you're not respecting the animal and they were tortured, I mean, you're eating a ball of pain. You're putting the pain in your body, torture in your body. So the same thing as with the plant medicine. That's why it's important to go to a reliable community, because ayahuasca is getting very popular. And I also feel like commercialized. So you can go places. I've been at clubs and they sell rapé and sananga at tables outside, of these clubs. And which, again, I don't want to create too much judgment, but when I took courses to learn about rapé and even understand when you're blowing it into someone, just channeling certain spirit animals or certain thoughts or connecting with an intention to release, allowing the medicine to be done, there's so much deeper ways to connect with the medicine, or else anything can become an addiction or just a practice to escape. For example, I talk about my marijuana use. I go outside all the time and I smoke a blunt, like Snoop Dogg or Tupac. I like to roll it in a tobacco leaf and I like to smoke, and it's very good for digestion, for sleeping. But I realized really not until after the ayahuasca, it was also an escape. I just wanted to get away. And I think when you have children, when you're a mother, when you're a business owner, it's hard to tell people, I just need to step away for a moment and breathe. But if you roll a joint and you step outside, most people don't want to stand right next to you. So I realized that it was a way for me to step away, a way for me to have my alone space, a way for me to take a deep breath. And then Mama Aya told me, well, you could do that anyways. You don't need to add in this fire that you're inhaling. And again, the things we resist persist. So I love all parts of myself, and I still love my connection with marijuana. But having a real connection with plant medicine in general has allowed me to see those subconscious, the things that we always hide, because everybody has the yin and the yang. And I can talk all day and travel the world and probably monetize the fact that I was the first person in Florida almost with my marijuana card. And I love plant medicine, but it's my duty as a mother of 2 kids to say it's really not the healthiest thing to light a tobacco leaf on fire and inhale it 3 to 10 times a day, So just because I want to do better. And the ayahuasca just showed me all the projections that I had, even with my husband. So even with my mother's death, it allowed me to stop arguing with what is and see the beauty in it. There's so many people that say I'm not a people person or, politics and everything that's going on in the world. It's like we can't handle the conversation. The plant medicine allows us to handle everything. It might not be what is serving us. It might not be joyous. It might not be happy, but it gives us the tool to remain calm and see things in an objective way and to be able to create love around that situation. And for me, that's the best way to explain it. I don't know if I'm doing a good job or going down too many rabbit holes, but trauma brought me to where I am now, to heal people in a way where it's not just so medicated and surgical, where it's not within a 5-10 minute medical appointment. You talk to a doctor and then you go home and you have to follow a plan, because nobody follows the plan. People say, I need you to wake me up, shock me, get me up, and I think ayahuasca really allows us to do that to ourselves every day. We realize it's not outside of us, it's within. So I'm just grateful to be here with you and, even to be recommended to talk to you, because studying plant medicine, ayahuasca, even Sananga, I have a great story with that. When they did the Sananga in my eyes, of course, it was like one of the strongest ones. I felt like I was blind for 15 minutes, but it was probably 5 minutes. They said it wouldn't last too long. It's eye drops that I'm sure you know, but just for people listening, they put it in your eye and it is expressed from this tree that is collecting water, right? The salt water in the ocean. Is it in Peru or is it everywhere else?
Honestly, we don't work much with Sananga. I've seen people doing it. I've never wanted to try it, but I think it's from Amazon. I don't know if it's from that's grow on the coast, but yeah, no idea there. Just tell the story.
Right. So again, this is why you got to be careful where you go, because I'm not going to deliver you Sananga because I don't know, all about it, but I definitely take it. And it's basically an eye drop where it feels like, you're crazy. You're just going to, you lose your vision for a little bit. And when I say you lose your vision, completely black, it's not spots. It's not anything. It's literally like you have no eyeballs. And when that happened, first, the shaman said to me, breathe into it and don't curse. And I think she knew what was about to come out of me, because I was like, I just started screaming curse words and I started slapping the ground. And then I started tapping myself like really hard. I was like really slapping myself. I even did, if anybody knows yoga, like a shoulder stand in a snowplow. Like I flipped backwards over because I couldn't handle it, or I thought I couldn't handle it. And then I heard my husband's voice. And before I tell everybody this, I want them to know I've been married 17 years. My husband's never cursed me out once. He's amazing and he's beautiful. We're very different. He's from New York. He's a jeweler. He doesn't want to be naked or go outside barefoot. He doesn't want to just play in the dirt like me. So we don't realize even what we put on our spouses, our family, our kids. So when I'm here, I heard his voice cursing me out. And what was weird to me is that he would never do that. So what I heard was what I thought he was thinking of me all the time. And this moment really helped my relationship with my husband, because if I can say without any, because it's pretty bad, but it was like, what the fuck are you doing, out in the woods with these hippies, and now you're blind. How do you feel about yourself now? Like, was this a good decision? So, but that was my subconscious thoughts. What am I doing out here in the woods with these people, and am I blind, But for some reason, I'm always thinking he's thinking that of me. And then I might come home and be like, But no, when I left, it's almost like Edward Scissorhand came and he cut everything into a heart. The trees, the clouds. When I came home, I saw my husband as a ball of love. Because one, he would never say those things to me. He supports my journey. And I realized this is within me. And I know that sounds crazy, but just the projections that we create onto other people were all coming out because I could hear the voices. Those two medicines were very intense. And I think it helped me release the anxiety towards drinking ayahuasca. So it was a great way that we had this process. And when I drank the ayahuasca, there's the ceremony and and again, every place is different. So I can't wait to come to yours. I was in a plant medicine church in the United States in Tampa, Florida, and they give a little red cup. So it's your first cup. Then you can offer a second cup and then possibly a third cup because they want people to get as much as they need. I've heard different stories at different places. So this is my story. The first time, I believe I did 2 cups. And the shaman looks at you before they pour the cup, to kind of look in your eyes and see how much you need. When I was on my first time, I felt I didn't get as much as everybody else, and I was thinking maybe it's because of the surgery as I've had, the colostomy bag, because they kind of do a scanning of your medical situation to keep you safe. Which is good, but I feel that I did not have the psychedelic experience, that expectation that maybe people read, what is ayahuasca? What am I going to experience? Of course, I didn't experience any of that. And that's life, because I think the more we create the expectations and we look at someone else's journey, we set up expectations, none of it's there. And going into brainwaves and studying like brainwaves of monks and really enlightened individuals, it's when you are almost nowhere or anywhere, anything can happen, right? So that's why it's good not to look up other people's journeys before your journey, because you just want to be there and allow anything to happen, limitless opportunities. When you define everything off of what you read or your past, that's what's going to shift everything from that moment. So I learned the first time I was comparing myself to everybody else. And I think I was like even a little upset, like, well, I can walk fine. I didn't even feel wobbly or, like maybe it didn't work. So I don't know, again, other places, but I've heard other people say they've been to ceremonies. Everybody's going through integration. Some people saw a snake go up a tree. Some people saw pyramids. And then there's a few people that didn't see anything. Maybe they didn't feel they experienced anything. And I was one of those in the beginning. So I thought, wow, nothing works on me, and someone who could be depressed could get even more depressed. Like, I'm trying everything. This doesn't work. But I realized that it created the relationship because I had the calling for Aya. And some people don't know what that means. But if you know, because it's like you don't even know what this plant is, but you're called to find an ayahuasca church or a ceremony. And that happened to me. And then after I drank a little bit of it, even though I thought I didn't have any type of psychedelic experience or huge transformation, it's like it was working its way through me until the next ceremony. And I had no idea. And again, because we don't know everything. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know. So the second time I went was amazing. It was so transformational. I wanted to go and heal what happened with my mother because she was killed by the hospital in 2019. I wanted to let it go. Apparently, I drank enough ayahuasca to start talking to trees this time. And there was one big tree, and the big tree, I was like, Mom. And the tree was like, no, I'm you. And it like pointed to a little weed, like, that's your tree. That's your mom. Basically, like, I am Mother Earth and everything's within me. And my mother's already going back into the, space. And we all have different beliefs of heaven, afterlife. So I'm not going to go down that too much. But for me, I feel like we're all a spirit. And I could feel my ancestors within me. I always feel alone because a lot of people in my family have passed away. So during the times on my second journey, it's almost like anything I was thinking, the answer was right there. I'm like, I feel alone. And the women that were singing in Spanish, there was a song. And even though I don't speak it fluently, oddly, I knew every word of it. And it was saying like, you are your brother, you are your sister, you are your mother, you are your father. And in those moments, I really accepted the world as my tribe, and that everybody's my family and that I'm not alone. And that has stayed with me ever since, because I think a lot of us feel alone and we aren't. And I felt a connection within every single living thing. And that's what's beautiful about plant medicine, because we're all a frequency, and the more we can connect, we are stronger. We amplify that good vibration. So I could go on forever. So I want to give you some.
I was wondering if you're ever gonna stop on your own. I'm just so curiosity thing. So I think that's a record on the podcast. You spoke for 24 minutes. But now mute your microphone. I'm gonna be speaking now. So first of all, what you're talking about, this not connecting thing. This is why we do retreats, right? Not like a one night thing, but minimum is like 2 ceremonies. But what I recommend for the first timers especially is 4 ceremonies in 1 week, because ayahuasca is like this. For most people, it takes a while to sort of start connecting, going there. But I think in your case, and we talked a little bit about that, the marijuana, kind of what it does to you, it makes it harder for you to connect. So this not connecting thing kind of brings me to the next stop, which is, you said you like the challenge. So my challenge to you would be whenever you plan to come here, hopefully soon, to quit the marijuana and actually not use it for at least a week. And you can do it. I'm sure you can. And because there is a bit of escapism that we all do. And I must say, my vice tends to be smoking cigars, because I just know, it'll automatically make me feel better. But it's harder to just actually sometimes just sit with the pain and kind of allow this. It's easy for us. We're all kind of conditioned by our society to have the instant gratification and just kind of running away from the pain. And another thing you said that I wanted to comment on is, we're all wounded healers. I think you greatly kind of like overlooked how difficult your condition was, because I saw the speech you did at the conference, and then there was your story and all the surgeries, and you looked really in a bad shape. So to have overcome this and then to become somebody who helps people as well, like you do it through a biohacking modality, and you help people, through physiotherapy. I think it's a very, very noble thing to do. And I guess there's a lot of us now, which is the wounded healer paradigm. There's so many people that heal themselves and then they step up and they want to heal others. My story with ayahuasca is somewhat similar, because I was kind of depressed. I didn't know what to do. And then I drank ayahuasca, and it helped me. And then I kept working with it till eventually it showed me like, oh, you should start working with ayahuasca. So I ended up with an ayahuasca retreat now. But I think it's this calling that kind of like there's universe created this broadcast, and it's like become a healer. And it's like many people are stepping up now, and hopefully it will change us as a society. Another thing you mentioned is how lonely we feel, and how you would have to hide your problems inside, and you just have to perform good and externally be okay. And that's what we notice a lot here at the retreat as well. When we live in that. It was bad 10 years ago and 20 years ago. It was always bad in our society. But now with like Instagram society, where everyone has to be perfect, and then everyone thinks like, oh, everyone is perfect, it's just me, and then it makes them feel even worse about them. So what we notice here at the retreat, people come, and first thing they experience is, wow, actually everyone is similarly hurt as I am, and everyone, and then all of a sudden it's less difficult because we're all in it together. So that brings me to our next my next question. So you said you're conducting studies on the effects of ayahuasca on people's brain, and it's hard for you to separate between the actual healing that comes from the medicine and healing that comes from the group. So talk to us a little bit about that, and also talk to us how do you measure the effects on the brain?
So there's a couple ways that you can measure the effects, and technology, just like our phones, is consistently advancing. So what I'm using today, I might not be using, at the next retreat if something that comes out that is faster, more available. The device that I've been using is called a neural check, and I can send you some imaging of this later. Maybe you can post it. It is 2 clips that go on the wrist, and it looks up heart rate variability. After measuring about 300 to 500 heartbeat, it also creates a connection and relationship between your neural hormonal system, your psychosomatic, your autonomic nervous system, and the balance between it all. It shows different charts and histograms and circadian rhythms of your optimal times throughout your day. It even shows your energy centers, chakra centers, and then it gives it a percentage where how open would you say it is. People can translate the data differently because it's new devices, but what's interesting how Western and Eastern overlap because it also shows the spinal health. The spinal health almost exactly correlates with the chakras because it's the energy that's coming from the spine at all of the levels, which is feeding the organs, feeding the body. So you can go into the health, the meridians, and create data for manual therapy, which is why I love to do what I do. And I think it's great when ayahuasca retreats have offerings like massage therapy, because you can see how the body needs manual touch along with the medicine. So we are scanning people before and after the retreats. At first, I was trying to do before and after ayahuasca. Anybody that has gone to ayahuasca retreats know there's opening circles, closing circles. Again, there could be multiple plant medicines, music, dance, community. A lot of people are detoxing before they come to a retreat. So they're already taking on a lot of good health practices that maybe otherwise they wouldn't be doing. So I feel that downplays the effects of ayahuasca just itself, because when you are scanning these people, their lives have already completely changed as they're getting ready to do an ayahuasca retreat. So I think the studies should go more into how does the ayahuasca retreat really change your life, because it's hard to disconnect the medicine. I was talking about ketamine, for example. When you go to a doctor's office and they do an IV injection, you can scan before, you have a monitored situation, you can scan after. With ayahuasca, it's important for integration. And like you said, having multiple ayahuasca retreats. I went to a ceremony. I think they had like 3 night times or a daytime. And that was like super transformational. So I think doing a study in the beginning and at the end, because when you're going each moment throughout the day, again, it can affect maybe the goals of the ayahuasca retreat to begin with, because people don't want to speak to someone in a white coat with a clipboard, they have white coat hypertension. So there's been barriers to the studies, but really we're scanning the brain. We're seeing where the brain waves are when they come in. And a lot of times people are in a scattered brain. They can't align their thoughts properly. They can't separate logic and creative thoughts. So if you've ever even scanned somebody, and even me, you could talk about 20 things in a conversation and not get your thought out. And that shows just a disconnect with the harmony inside of your brain. It's really healthy to get a thought out and then go to the next thing. When 2 people are together and they're like, squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. I mean, it could be funny, but really it's showing that your brain is not on a cohesive brainwave. So 2 years it took me to meditate and help take away depression, suicide thoughts, even, and I hate to go into the feelings of hate and anger, but when you've been through a lot, if you've had pain, abuse, rape, whatever, a lot of times you might actually be soothed with the thoughts of anger or pain, or even wanting to hurt the person that hurt you. So that's what's so beautiful, because ayahuasca allowed me to see everybody in a different light. It's really hard to explain, but just to send love to all, even to people that I used to, I hate to admit it out loud because it's the human part of me, but I used to want to, kill people. Like, and not everybody, I hate to say that out loud, but if someone is sexually abusing someone, it's like, kill that MFer, this or that. But it's weird because ayahuasca helped me see so many layers even behind that person of maybe what they're thinking when they do it. And I don't even want to think that. I don't want to connect with people that I don't align with, or that I feel are evil, or that might be on, this side of the border, right? Like, people have so much division, especially with wars that are going on in the world, inside of our homes or with your neighbor, during the pandemic. Are you going to vaccinate? Are you going to vaccinate? And then people create all this hate. I'm so blessed that ayahuasca allowed me to see where people are thinking. Everybody's doing their best with the knowledge they have. And really, that's where the ayahuasca and the studies, you can see people's thought process. You can see their psycho-emotional state, their inability to handle any type of noxious stimuli. So noxious stimuli could be something that is irritating to you. That could be someone's voice, right? How does it apply to your daily life? A noxious stimuli could be pain. Pain is an output. A lot of people are like, oh my God, I'm in so much fucking pain. But when they heal their mind, their body's not in pain anymore because it was a psychosomatic response, and that's what's been beautiful about the studies, to see the mind really get healthy over time. I love a device called the Brain Tap, and it's something I put on my head. And again, it took me 2 years to really improve my brain after my mom was killed and different things, to just be where I was. When I did ayahuasca and I studied people, it only took them one day to get to where it took me 2 years and a lot of people. And that's pretty amazing, to be able to go through all of the barriers and just be where you need to be. You can have doctors that have a bias, because I speak at different conferences, and the more medical it gets and the less psychedelic, holistic, there's more of a, why are you bringing this information to us? What does it have to do with the medical community? Dr. Leiva is a drug addict. Dr. Leiva is a hippie. Dr. Leiva is a weed smoker. All of the bias that comes in. And I was very proud of myself on stage last time. And I said, well, let's go back and think about how many people I've helped, how many veterans, how many people that are going through cancer treatments, how many people who had a colostomy bag like me, and they couldn't even go to the bathroom like how we were intended. And after going through this process of plant medicines, they've been able to heal and not be on drugs anymore. So to show and not to say battle, but to stand my ground and say, I'm not doing anything wrong. That's your bias and what you've learned. As long as you can respect everything, I think the more that people like me can get out there and show them it's healing, show the data, the brainwaves are changing. And just a quick example, because I could go on forever, but certain people like UFC fighters, veterans, NFL players with concussion injury, people that are some people that could have angry tendencies, they don't maybe want to do breath work or yoga or attend to sound healing or go to an ayahuasca retreat. There could be all of these things inside of them where they feel like they're too far gone. That's why also having one-on-ones, I don't know if you guys do like private ceremonies or smaller groups, but that's really beautiful, because I tell these people that are so far from wanting it. I said, when you go through yoga and breath work and stuff, you have to be in a space of receiving. But when you're so far gone or depressed or angry, sometimes having a medicine that opens you up, and I don't want to say whether you like it or not, but when you're in a sacred atmosphere and you're supported and feel safe and you can be guided, it almost, and I don't want to say cheats your way through, but I tell them, it's a way to open up and skip over 100 steps. Because when you go through insurance and to providers, talk therapies, psychologists, I've been to it all myself, and not everybody's great. And one person can be the cherry on top that makes someone just want to go off the edge. Plant medicine is very objective in the way that it works through the body. You don't have to talk to ayahuasca and tell it where to go. It knows where to go. And it's just, I think that's what's so beautiful about plant medicine.
Thank you for sharing this. So definitely, it's interesting that you observed that how much of speed up, how much ayahuasca can speed up that process of healing. It's I've definitely noticed it myself and on many other people that come here, where they keep saying like, oh, this feels like 10 years of therapy, 20 years of therapy, you name it. I think the biggest I had was like 30. So I want to talk about, obviously, your main focus is biohacking, and it's interesting to me. I've been trying to go on some biohacking podcasts to talk more about plant medicines, because I think, to me, there's an obvious connection, but there seems to be some resistance to it. And for some reason, like, people, when they're biohacking, they really focus on like this supplement and that thing, but there is not really enough talk about mental health, as in, from my understanding, you can be completely healthy and you can have like super long telomeres and your cells are amazing and your mitochondria is like wonderful, and then you shoot yourself in the head because you're so depressed or whatever happens to you. It's like mental health is really the most important thing, and I like your attitude to mind over matter. So where do you think, where do you stand on that? How can we get more people in biohacking space to talk about plant medicines, mental health in general?
Well, I think people like you and me coming together, I have a group that I started on WhatsApp after all of the biohacking conferences. Now that I'm speaking, I've added in the speakers. It's called Bio Royale. So I'd love to connect you in there and get you on the different podcasts, because the more that we connect outside of the conferences, and keep the conversation going, the more that it's going to create this community. And that is really the reason why I did it. If you don't go to a conference and spend at least $5,000 on a VIP ticket, it's really hard for you to connect with another physician, doctor, scientist. And even at the VIP dinners, it's like an hour on a weekend. So when I go to those VIP dinners and I'm just like, wow, so much can be made, I created that group. And there's so many podcasts that you should be on, and I'm excited for you to be on them and get more information out there. I made a joke at the last conference, and it's not funny, but it's exactly what you were saying, is we can look good, we can feel good, we can have a really strong body. And after my mother was overdosed on blood thinner in 2019, after I was hospitalized 9 months, after I was hit by a car, and then I was hit by another car afterwards. So again, mental health is super important. And I kind of was smiling for everybody else because I'm a yogi, I'm a spiritual person, and I would smile so other people would be comfortable as I was like literally dying inside. And if it wasn't for my children, I probably would have, and I hate to admit it, but I would have let myself go. I was only here for other people, my physical body. That's how bad it was. And I would tell people about it. And that's when I realized there is a problem of disconnect, because I started sharing it. And my joke is that I go to people and say, hey, I'm really sad. And someone goes, wow, you're so beautiful. And I said, wait. I just told you I'm sad. I'm really, really sad. Well, you look strong. This is my joke on stage. I go, well, I actually want to kill myself. And they're like, oh my God, you should be a model. So people are not even listening to me when I'm telling them something's wrong inside. And when you appear good on the outside, again, I also related to me wearing makeup and putting on more fancy clothes is the sadder I am inside. Because when I'm just in such a place of acceptance, especially at the ayahuasca retreats, you can find me in like super hippie clothes, barefoot, my hair is a mess, I'm not wearing makeup. And I've noticed the sadder I get in life, the more I put on the outside, the more I create a barrier of really who I am to the world. And that's what I also love about ayahuasca ceremonies. That was something Aya told me. It's like, if you're not dancing, you're not happy. Because when I'm around the fire and I hear the drums and I can move my body, that's my spirit telling me, like, you're in a great atmosphere, you feel welcomed. And I've been in places afterwards where I'll feel music and then I actually don't want to move, like a lotus flower, feeling constricted. And it really connected me with the spaces that allow me to be free and authentic. It doesn't mean I'm happy. This is such a joyous place. Because again, being allowed to be in places that maybe you don't want to be, but you can handle it and it's not affecting you. Because when we create a backpack of, I'm not going there because this one has that belief. I'm not going to go knock on that person's house on Halloween because they're either vaccinated or unvaccinated, or they're a Republican or a Democrat. Like, people create a backpack. I can't. And then by the time you go out of the door, you can't even walk out the door. The backpack is so big because you don't want to have a trigger, you know? And the mind over matter, especially with ayahuasca, allowed me to realize I'm not a gun. I don't have triggers. This is just pain that I've hold. And if I let go of the pain, nobody can trigger me. And now it's like I'm that person that I used to just can't stand. How do you not have a trigger? You know, how could you be around people that are so evil or abusive? But it's because, right, it's all a matrix. And it's how are we transmuting that energy to be the change we want to see, you know? And that's where mental health really helps me. And I tell people all the time when I go to the conferences, and I started going to more medical related conferences, which at first was, I was like, ew, I hate the hospital, the medical field, the cutting, the prescribing. But even now, when I look at my YouTube videos from a year ago, I think I'm such a rigid B word, you know, because I'm like, ew, the medical system. There's so much good that they do. I'm sure they keep so many people alive, you know, and doing the best that they can. So just allowing the rigidity to wash off my hand and be open and welcoming for everything and to see the best of all. Because again, even doctors that are in mainstream medical, hopefully they're doing what they think is best. Hopefully they're not all evil, right? So it's that same projection I had upon my husband. Everybody's doing what they think is right, hopefully. Some people are not. But if we can all create a communication and be able not to switch our vibration to hate or anger, I mean, that's where the mind over matter will change and bridge the gap between communities. Because I can talk to doctors all the time, especially MDs, and they can hardly have a conversation with me. And it's just because of their beliefs. It has nothing to do with the science. So that's, you know.
Well, I do believe not everyone is evil, and most people are just doing their best within the confines of their environment. And I think the problem is less of the people and like doctors specifically. I think the problem is the system. Like there's so much push, you know, like, and the rules, and some of them learn it in the wrong way as well. There might be some evil people on the top, but maybe they're not even just evil. They're just greedy and they just want to make money and they kind of care about anything else. But it's most evident when we have doctors come over here to the retreat. Like we had chief surgeons and some pretty advanced doctors where they cannot find any help in their own medical system. So this is when it's like when it becomes obvious that yeah, it's a missing link. And like we can't really just go blind and be like, you know, some people believe in the physical body, other people believe in the mind, and other people believe in the spirit. But the reality is like all three are correct, and we just need to figure out how to communicate in between all of them. So definitely medicine, physical body. If I have a toothache, I'm not going to go drink ayahuasca. I'm going to go to that. It's awesome to have that option. But if I'm like feeling depressed, I'm not going to go take an antidepressants. This is when I'm going to choose to meditate or maybe attend the ceremony. And and there are spiritual ailments as well that most Western people don't know about. But sometimes your issue is not even physical nor mental. There can be something else. And, you know, this is when you go to a shaman. And like the beauty of ayahuasca in a way that it kind of addresses all three but of course not all the individual parts. So that's a kind of easy entry for a lot of people to understand it. But you also mentioned suicidal ideation, and the amount of times we had people say they bought one-way ticket to come here, and if this doesn't work, they're going to kill themselves, is like probably more than 10 now. And as far as I know, all of them are still alive because they left happier than ever. So if you are listening to this podcast, I say, before you kill yourself, just come here, give it a try, if it doesn't work, whatever, but it works almost every time. It kind of like ayahuasca has this unique way to just beat up this desire of life into you and just kind of show you the bright side. And then, because like when you're really depressed, it's really hard to think of anything, but with the ayahuasca, sometimes you get this, it kind of lifts off the fog for a few weeks and gives you the energy to change things that actually are causing the root causes of that strong depression to begin with. So yeah, that's what I wanted to comment on it. But regarding what I wanted to ask you next is, when you were in that space in the hospital and you were completely like beaten up by life, what helped you, and why did you have this conviction of like mind over matter? Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna meditate. And I saw photos of you in the hospital bed and like doing yoga poses, looking very emaciated with like blue marks on your skin and stuff like that. So where did this fire come from? What helped you?
So I think that's where you go into the spirit body. We have our mind, our body, and our spirit. And oftentimes we don't know why we're doing things, or we might have deja vu, but I feel we're all older than what is our age, And there was a spirit inside of me, my spirit. Everybody was telling me I was going to die, but I had a huge, and for me, I call it God. And they just were consistently within me or talking to me, you're not going to die. You're going to be fine. Everybody told me my child would not, live. And the other voice, the other than conscious mind said, you will live. Your children will be fine. I didn't eat for 9 months. I was intubated. I had to, replace all my teeth afterwards. But the whole time, also being on dilaudid morphine, Benadryl, Ambien, they put so many opioids in my body. That was a weird process because I remember I was looking at a clock on the wall. And if it wasn't for having an education, which is really good that I was admitted to medical school before that happened. I've studied a lot. I was a personal trainer, a yoga instructor. My mother was into yoga, but, I knew, okay, you should breathe 12 to 20 times per minute, but I'm not breathing. So there was like a different spirit in me that was like, look at the clock, breathe with the clock. So it was almost like my body was a machine and that my spirit was watching me, and I kept it going. And I was having a conversation with myself over the time. And again, completely 9 months built up. I had lack of movement, range of motion from the nurses and things. So my spine got twisted. I had pressure ulcers. I'll send you a whole list of pictures. Maybe I'll put it up there. But again, there was the spiritual part of me that absolutely 100%, no question, you're going to be fine. So it's hard to explain that to people. And even when people would talk to me, it was right there in front of me. And I've talked with a lot of veterans and victims of really bad trauma. And I could talk about a veteran who was set on fire in a hole. And everybody died except him in this situation. But it's almost like time paused for him. And he had a conversation with God or his spirit that said, crawl out this way. It's almost like you're looking at your physical body in a different way. And you have the choice. Like, do you want to call in all of those parts before? And I think by my mother giving me a spiritual practice since I was little, and I did smoke marijuana. I would do drummings on the beach. I would go to Reiki masters. I didn't do ayahuasca yet, but there was a part of me that was like, do you want to keep this body going, this meat suit? And so it was higher than my physical body and even my mind, because my mind would look at my sons. It would watch me look at my son Well, if you die, who's going to be that child's mother? You know, like these two different things. So really, it was just my spiritual practice helped me. I was a yoga instructor, so I knew how to breathe in different ways. Especially when I was intubated, I ended up pulling the tubes out of my mouth. They would put it back in. I think they put me on more Dilaudid, and I pulled them out again. Finally, they came down. They're like, why are you intubating her? She's completely conscious, you know? And that was really the change when I'm like, no, I want to breathe on my own. And for so long, my spirit was watching the body, allowing itself to die. And I remember one day I was like, no, you can pull it out. You can breathe on your own. You don't need this machine. And the sad part is when you're in an ICU and you start pulling things out, people want to bind you or take your hands away. And nobody understands what is the body doing, you know? And this is something I would love to bridge the gap or create some type of machine that is saying, you know, the mind, the spirit knows it's time to get off of this. And, you know, another man doesn't know, or woman. I don't mean man and say man with a penis, but I mean another human has no idea what's going on within your spirit. So my spiritual practice and all the parts of me before this human body was even born were within me, guiding me along the way. So that is not the answer and the easiest one everybody wants to hear, but it was a very spiritual moment where I think if people read books like Untethered Soul or books that help them realize there's subconscious thoughts, conscious thoughts, there's the spirit, the mind, the body, it's all different things. And after going to ayahuasca, you know, it's like you're a piece of magnet in this world and all of the parts of you are just connecting, which make you stronger and safer and happier and more able. And it was all there anyways, but now you can feel it more.
Yeah, well, it's good that your mother instilled that spiritual grain in you. And I'm just kind of wondering if let's say more people would have had earlier ayahuasca experiences or just the spiritual awakening, how differently different people might have acted in different situations. And just I have a lot of questions about a different version of the world where it is just a part of our normal thing. Like, you know, like if we celebrate Christmas once a year, why can't there be a holiday where we all drink ayahuasca once a year? It's like it would be pretty awesome. I need to figure out how to create a day in the calendar. Like I would like to start a National Ayahuasca Day. And then we can start slowly organizing that. So maybe you know somebody who can teach me how to do that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lauren, for sharing. I think your story is very inspirational for a lot of people. And you mentioned before the episode that you were kind of thinking about starting a podcast. I think you're 100% sure you can be one of those people who have the solo podcast where you just sit down and just talk for an hour. I don't know how they do it, but you look like you definitely would be able to do that. You can just you sure can speak. You can just let it out, which is a unique talent. So where can people find more about you, about your work, about your clinic?
So, and again, of course, I'm just going to add one thing to the last. The more the people like you are doing this with me, I think people that are where I was in the hospital, how much of a blessing would it be to say, let's have you come to them in the hospital or them come to you, and maybe even bill insurance one day or make it more, you know, available. So that's really why I'm here with you today, is so when people are in my situation, they don't have to seek so much outside, and that someone says, you know what, I'm a professional and this is what I recommend. So that's my goal. And thank you for giving the platform to do this. If people are in Tampa, Florida, I have a clinic called the ExerScience Center, and it's in Lutz, Florida, which is a little bit north of Tampa. And I just opened the Zen Powerhouse. And we're actually working on like a plant medicine registration for this to like kind of teach more, guide more. We're not going to be doing ayahuasca retreats at all, because I definitely want to connect with communities like yours where you have the shamans and the geographical location to help people step outside of their day-to-day and really respect what they're about to do. Because some people might try to tie it into like a quick weekend or like, oh, I'm going to go back to work. But the integration is so important. So I can't wait to co-host a retreat and bring you guys, all of my followers, to, how do I pronounce your center?
Lawaira.
Oh, does that have to do with the why? Oh, I see it on the thing.
But it's not just the shamanic branch. It also means air and wind in their language.
Wow, that's special. Since I've been watching Avatar with my son, I'm an airbender. But so the ExerScience Center, I'm also known as the Queen of Biohacking. I know that I think Dallas hooked us up. Dallas from Biohackers magazine. And if you don't have this magazine, I would definitely download it. But I speak about my journeys in here, and I can even write about our podcast for the next one. But it's called The Queen's Corner. So you can find it in every episode. This one I'm talking about aging with grace, and this one I was talking about 10 top biohacks. But I think, Dallas, get ready.
I'm over to Lawaira, and after you have your experience here, you can write about that in the next while. There will be some good content, I'm sure.
Perfect. And then I'll also tag you on my Instagram so the followers will connect with you. And if you want to go to an amazing retreat center, I kind of wanted to make a note so my followers know. I was just in Costa Rica, and they were talking about another center that was very, very expensive. And can you explain maybe briefly like an estimated cost? Because things can change year to year. But what is the average retreat at your space would cost somebody?
So we are at the moment that it can change because inflation is brutal, and I can't really tie myself to the price because money keeps losing its value all the time. But our retreat start from $495. So $495 for a 4-day 2-ceremony retreat that includes transport from the nearest big city, which is Medellin, and it includes food and accommodation in the shared rooms. So a lot of people choose that. I would, however, not recommend it for the first timers. I would recommend 1 week for the first timers. 1 week is 7 days. It's $795, but it's 4 ceremonies. Once again, accommodation, shared room, food, and transport from the city included, which is about, I believe, 3 to 5 times cheaper than any retreats that have similar amenities or like reputation to us, because we have at the moment 460 plus 5-star reviews on Google, hundreds and hundreds of video testimonials. So our like really impeccable reputation, and at the same time we have like a really beautiful Maloca. The place is very beautiful. It's a large property in here in the Andes. Just, people just keep saying like, why are you so cheap? Well, the reason we keep the price low is because my mission is to give ayahuasca to as many people as possible. Hopefully one day everyone, but of course I know it's not realistic. But if I would charge like $3,000 instead of $800, I mean, it means that I kind of contradict my own words. So for as long as I can, and for as long as we are managed to be profitable, I'll try to keep the price low. But yeah, basically, ayahuasca saved my life, changed my life, made it better in every sense. So I want everyone to experience that. I'm not an ayahuasca maximalist. I know that ayahuasca is just a part of it. It's just this big opening, this big door that you open to then the rest of the healing. So I'm a big fan of yoga, meditation, breathing exercises. We provide all of them to our visitors as well. I'm a big fan of group sessions as well. So yeah, I mean, people that are listening to this podcast probably know about that, but for your listeners, so you know. But we also do longer retreats. The longest retreat we do is 18 days. I don't have the price from the top of my head, but it's reasonable.
I would love an 18-day retreat. We can come up with that. And I love to host retreats from the inside out with wellness. And I know you love biohacking. So I can't wait to see what the future holds for Dr. Lauren and Lawaira.
it's la, like all the Spanish words start with la, and then you say why, as in like question mark, why, and then ra, La Huayra.
La Huayra. Oh, I'm going to make it better. So I will see you later.
Lauren, thank you so much for coming on the episode. Guys, you've been listening to ayahuascapodcast.com. As always, we do the host Sam Believ, and I will see you in the next episode.
See you later.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to support us and psychedelic renaissance at large, please follow us and leave us a like wherever it is you're listening. Share this episode with someone who will benefit from this information. Nothing in this podcast is intended as medical advice, and it is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This episode is sponsored by La Huayra Ayahuasca Retreat. At La Huayra, we combine affordability, accessibility, and authenticity. La Huayra, connect, heal, grow. Guys, I'm looking forward to hosting you.
Con la vida, vida de la baila, cura con la guaira, limpia, limpia, taita, vibrando.